Humans have only lived on Earth for a brief period of time, so brief that even if the history of modern man was 100 times longer, it would still have started only 35 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs. And this is the most conservative estimate, according to which the first Homo sapiens appeared in Africa 300,000 years ago. To evolve into anime and Fortnite lovers, the human genus has come a long way, during which other versions of humans have roamed and disappeared from the Earth. You have probably heard of popular Neanderthals, but there were others. Before we talk about them, it's worth refreshing our ancestral tree in simplified form. First, it was tiny rodent-like mammals, then monkeys, then upright humans, and then Homo sapiens. In reality, our ancestral tree is much more complicated and is still the subject of debate. For example, Duramaia sinensis is now considered one of the oldest placental mammals, giving birth to offspring in a style similar to modern humans and other mammals, a tiny creature resembling a rat. It ran on Earth 160 million years ago, according to the age of fossils found, which were published in the journal Nature. For a moment, this makes the rat even older than Tyrannosaurus, according to the most modest estimates. So the history of our species began almost simultaneously with the dinosaur era, and as a result, the phrase that man evolved from a rat, not from a monkey, begins to make sense. It's worth noting that Duramaia, in the modern understanding, was not a rat. It gets even more interesting from there. It's traditionally believed that the paths of rats and primates diverged at a small mammal named Purgatorius, which appeared about 66 million years ago and witnessed dinosaurs. It is now considered the earliest primate-like creature. Then came the incredible Archaeopus Achilles, the first true tree-dwelling primate. Its age is 55 million years, and it is already a quite modern-looking primate. Place it in a modern zoo and nobody would notice. Here, the paths of human and rat ancestors finally diverged, and later, the paths of different primate branches began to diverge. First, semi-ape and ape. The name of the first suborder may seem insulting, but in fact, semi-apes lived peacefully until modern times. For example, the beloved lemurs. But of course, we are interested in anthropoid apes. For a long time, their common ancestor was considered to be the handsome proconsul who lived 18 million years ago. Now his title is disputed, but what is important to us is that at this stage, we encounter the first extinct branch of human development. After a dozen evolutionary branches from proconsul, modern humans appeared. But there was also a parallel branch, Gigantopithecus. They were extinct human-like apes that died out about 100,000 years ago. Specialists estimate their height reached 4 meters and weighed 500 kilograms. The brain volume of Gigantopithecus was significantly larger than that of gorillas. These facts make Gigantopithecus very similar to Pithecanthropus, which, of course, were not known to academics, but evolved into modern humans. The smartest gorilla, Coco, spoke in sign language and understood 2,000 English words. It can be safely assumed that the potential of the Gigantopithecus was not worse. Russian anthropologist Stanislav Drobyshevsky even put forward the assumption that in some excavations, extremely large tools of labor are found that were not of the same size as our ancestors. It cannot be definitively ruled out that Gigantopithecus once mastered some tools of labor, but for unclear reasons, they went extinct, leaving behind only relatives in the form of modern orangutans, which, in the opinion of many historians, are considered the smartest animals after humans. We continue and talk about our next ancestor, the Australopithecus, which appeared 4 million years ago. 2 million years later, the genus Homo separated from them, and along with it, Paranthropus robustus, a stilip-like beauty with a flat and slightly curved skull. It's not worth looking up at him. Our ancestors haven't gone far, and the Paranthropus robustus foot was similar to a human's. The guys were also successfully mastering bone tools, walking on 2 legs, and like us, were omnivores. They were also healthy, though not as healthy as another branch of Australopithecines, Paranthropus boisei. At a height of 1.5 meters, they weighed up to 90 kilograms and had massive jaws, otherwise not much different from the described Paranthropus. Both of them, as we already said, went extinct. This round in the evolution game was won by the genus Homo. It seemed 2 million years ago, and the further history of the species' development should have been horribly boring. But no. From this moment, the real action began. For one species of surviving Homo sapiens, there are as many as 15 extinct. We won't mention the most popular Neanderthals. It's time to remember something more interesting, like Homo floresiensis. It's a truly unique parallel branch of evolution. They are the real hobbits from the Lord of the Rings. In reality, they lived in caves, with the most studied one being Liangbo on Flores Island, where 16 remains of this species were found. The best preserved skeleton is 104 centimeters tall and weighs 25 kilograms, being an adult. The brain of this species was only 400 cubic centimeters, which is smaller than a modern chimpanzee's. But it's important to remember that from an evolutionary standpoint, smaller does not mean worse. We have smaller brains than even the earliest Homo sapiens. But not everyone became stupider because of this. When Homo floresiensis was first found, there were debates among anthropologists, with some claiming it was a sick representative of Homo sapiens, others loudly asserting they were identical to modern hobbits, and others pointing out that on the same island of Flores, remains of tiny elephants were found. Thus, miniaturization could be a feature related to the isolation of the local fauna from civilization. Nonetheless, this species successfully mastered toolmaking. They probably could communicate, and according to some estimates, they became extinct about 50,000 years ago. Another one of our extinct relatives is Homo denisovanensis. The history of this species is very complicated. It will be difficult to understand. In the 1980s, remains of people were found in China and the Soviet Union that do not fit either Neanderthals or anyone else, so they were decided to be put into a separate subspecies of human. Thanks to DNA research, scientists clearly state that the found remains belong to a completely different branch of human development. Moreover, the difference between Neanderthals and us is estimated at 202 nucleotides, while Homo denisovanensis is 385. That is, they were even more distantly related to us, and much of their history is shrouded in mystery. You all know that modern humans carry from 1 to 4 Neanderthal DNA, depending on the region, which is understandable as it gets cold in caves and one wants to cuddle up to someone. Only modern Melanesians have 6% of Homo denisovanensis DNA. That is, either Homo denisovanensis lived in a larger territory in Eurasia, or somehow a group of Homo sapiens passed through their cave in Altai, had a wild party with mating, and then went further to Southeast Asia. In any case, Homo denisovanensis left at least as many traces as Neanderthals, and it is even more paradoxical that archaeologists have not found any significant remains. Well, let's get back to the Hobbits. Just recently, in 2019, they officially joined the ranks. 12 years before that, in the Calayo cave in the Philippines, another strange bone was found. It's like a human and relatively modern, but very small. They calculated that the woman to whom it belonged was about 130 centimeters tall in adulthood. The scientists did not make any loud statements and continued to search. In 2011, they found a couple of fangs. In 2015, they found a femur, a tibia, and a whole foot. This is already more than Homo denisovanensis. So the scientists decided that it was inconvenient to leave all this unattended. That's how the list of human development branches was expanded to Homo luzonensis. The details still very murky, but it is reliably known that these guys lived about 40-60,000 years ago. They were able to use tools and even hunted. Let's end the episode with the old and good Homo erectus pekinensis. This is a fairly ancient branch of Homo development, with remains found in Beijing dated to 750,000 years ago. What's even more interesting is that these guys had brains that were over 1,000 cubic centimeters in volume. This allowed them to use animal remains not only as tools, but also as full clothing. Some scientists also believe that Erectus pekinensis mastered fire, but there's also a flip side. Damaged remains of some individuals have caused scientists to think that these ancient people didn't hesitate to have a bite of a fallen comrade, or maybe even not fallen, and maybe they even hunted similar beings. Anyway, the situation is also mysterious. Some scientists consider Erectus pekinensis to be the direct ancestors of the Mongoloid race, but most scientists still consider them a dead-end branch of human evolution. The evolution of human beings did not follow a set path. It was a complex, lengthy process with many nuances. Many dead-end branches of human development have perished, and it is likely that many more await discovery. Every new breakthrough in anthropology leads to even more questions rather than answers. And so we should respect the hard work of anthropologists and closely follow where their research leads.